Today, the Himalayan state of Uttarakhand is faced with so many crises. Its ecology is threatened because of various reasons, which are due to climate change and developmental project. Today, we here with us a very active member of the Citizens Forum, which is working to save the environment of the hill state. We have with us Malika Bhanurji. She will be giving us a perspective on the kind of crisis the state is facing and the kind of alternative policies, developmental policies that are needed to save the state. Welcome to Indian News Stream, Malika ji. So, could we begin with this with some of those issues which are currently occupying your mind? You belong to Ganga Ahwan, as I am told, and you people have been running a campaign against these hydroelectric projects and the kind of developmental model that is being implemented in the state.
So I first, just to correct that, it's not that Ganga Ahwan is leading a movement against hydropower. We prefer to call it that we are pro Ganga Himalayan Basin, not really anti hydropower. We are just so right now, the larger context, if you understand that climate change is a global issue, we all know that we are facing a lot of challenges of global climate change. I mean, right now, even in the plains in the state of in all over India, even in Delhi or Maharashtra or anywhere, we are witnessing so many climatic change events. Uttarakhand is one of the states which is most impacted by climate change. The reason I'm saying this is because it's extremely vulnerable and extremely fragile. So little bit of change of temperature also is causing significant impact in the climate change. Now, having said that, there is a larger concept of the global climate change, which is the temperature rise, which is happening globally and worldwide, and there is a smaller aspect of microclimatic changes, which is happening at the local level. A lot of infrastructure developmental works, a lot of tourism related activities, a lot of even agriculture related activities worldwide are also causing microclimatic changes. In the state of Uttarakhand, what we are seeing is that a lot of infrastructure projects like hydropower construction, there are bumper to bumper hydropower projects that are being constructed on the Ganga and on all the head streams of the Ganga basin. So around 400 projects have been envisioned. Some of them are under construction, some of them are already existing, and some of them are proposed hydropower projects. So a lot of infrastructure development, road widening activities.
Can I just ask one question? As you said, you are not against hydropower project. I mean, you are just objection to the scale of the project. I mean, you are in favor of small hydroelectric projects.
No. I am saying that Ganga Ahwan as a movement is not anti-hydropower movement. It's a pro-Ganga conservation, Himalayan conservation movement. Of course, hydropower projects all over the hills, not just all over the Himalayas, not only the state of Uttarakhand. Hydropower projects all over the state of Himalayas are severely detrimental. So yes, since we are pro-environment, we have to be anti-hydro. But it's not that we started the movement saying that no, there is no anti-hydro. This is what I wanted to say. The other activities that I was mentioning about in the state of Uttarakhand is also road widening activities now. That is one of the major issues which is now talk of the state so far. And also recently the disaster that happened in February 2021, there was a glacial avalanche that happened in the state of Uttarakhand, because of which it's in the Rishi Ganga Valley, and in that several people lost their lives. 200 people, 200 odd laborers who were working on one of the hydropower projects got completely washed away, or they got completely buried in the debris. This was a climate change related thing, in the sense because there was an increased temperature rise, because of which there was a landslide, there was a avalanche which took place in the mountain area, because of which a lot of debris came down and the river volume increased, and subsequently the river was furious. This was, why is it so surprising? It had happened in winter months, when the mountains are supposed to conserve the ice, when the mountain is supposed to protect its cover. It is happening in the peak of winter season, which is completely unprecedented. The hydropower projects are essentially escalating the impact of the disaster. So this river comes down with a lot of debris, with a lot of water and volume, and there are the water basically gets blocked at the barrage. When it gets blocked, it kind of creates a temporary sort of a pondage behind the barrage, and that basically pushes the barrage down, brings the mountain down, and carries a cascading effect downstream. Now, similarly, in Rishiganga Valley in February to 2021, if it's a winter season and this is a glacial river, so there was very less water in the river. Even then, the river water volume was so high, and the blocks that happened in the river flow, if you were to allow the river to flow in her path, and if you do not have a blockage along her path, she would not be so devastative. But when you block the river flow, which is so furious, the devastation increases many fold. So that was one of the things that happened, that because of this Tapovan Vishnu Ghat hydropower project that was being constructed on the way, and a lot of workers which were who were working on Tapovan Vishnu Ghat hydropower project, there was no disaster warning, nothing. There was no sound, there was no alarm, nothing. And all of these people who were working inside the tunnels or who were working over the barrage, they were completely washed out or they were buried in the debris. Now, to answer the second part of your question, saying that how do you say that it is man-made? I'll just give you a simple example. In 2013, when the disaster happened, there was a committee which was formed by the Supreme Court of India, and that committee came out with a conclusion saying that the hydropower projects have played a direct and an indirect role in escalating the impact of the disaster of 2013. So they had recommended that beyond a certain point, the hydropower project should not be constructed beyond the MCT line because they are sensitive areas. They're even more vulnerable. They're even more fragile. Had those warnings been considered, then we would have avoided this February 2021 disaster, and we would have saved 300 plus lives that we have lost this year. So this is how it is heart wrenching that 2013 happened and we again allowed 2021 to happen.
And now this
It is criminal negligence.
and now this Char Dham project, under which the roads are being, I believe, widened to, I think, 12 meters.
12 meters the formation width,
So
yes, and 10
lot
meters
of
is the
lot of
carriageway width.
cutting of trees and mountain rocks is taking place. So how is
Yes.
it going to affect? The government says they want to just connect these four shrines, and then the defense ministry says these routes are now very crucial because of the threat from the Chinese side. So
Very
how
important
how do
also.
you weigh, how do you balance these various
See,
needs and environmental
yeah,
concerns?
uh, very very important, when even the petitioners, even the people who had actually gone to court, nobody was really against widening. Nobody said that you want to strengthen the roads of your country, we're with you, you should. We all want to strengthen the infrastructure of our country, and but to what extent and at what cost, that is the question. So the entire round of debate of this Char Dham road project is of excessive widening. How is it that you are widening the road to 10 meters carriageway width of 12-meter formation width in a place which does not have enough land for you to acquire? How is it feasible? It's not feasible, and which is why what has happened is that you have triggered landslides. Parallelly, 889 kilometers of the road is being widened on all the five routes of this so-called Char Dham in the state of Uttarakhand. Sorry, the so-called Char Dham project in the state of Uttarakhand. There are five routes. One goes to Yamunotri, one goes to Gangotri, one goes to Kedarnath, Badrinath, and another is to Pithoragarh. Out of these five routes, three routes are feeding to the border roads. They are not border roads, they are feeding to the border roads. So where the Char Dham project stops, from that point onwards, the border roads start. They are not part of the Indo-China border road construction. So the border is like maybe 100 kilometers away from each of these feeder roads, or 100 or a little bit less than 100, but around this time. Now, The point is that you're building a road which is 12-meter wide. For that, you are doing vertical hill cutting because you do not have ROW to expand to acquire the land. So you are doing vertical hill cutting. Everybody knows, even a child would know, that mountains cannot stand like this. Mountains have to stand like this. So when you do cut the mountain like this, it comes down. You have triggered landslides on these three defense routes. Because of this road widening, they have done 171 new landslides have been triggered because of the project. The idea of defense related road is to basically make it disaster resilient, not disaster prone. If there is a disaster prone road, then it is counterproductive to the security of the country. Right now, there have been so many instances where, because of these triggered landslides, the borders are disconnected with the mainland of Uttarakhand for so many days. Even for almost a month, Badrinath route was almost disconnected for almost a month. So how is it going to help in the defense of the country? One must ask. The disaster resilience is the key factor. Now, this excessive road widening is what was everybody opposing to. Even the experts were opposing to this, even the residents were opposing to this because it's too much. Wow, I mean, whatever road that you have to widen, accordingly, you have to cut more trees. Accordingly, you are going to cut more, do more of hill cutting. So, so what was largely suggested was to make an intermediate road width, which is basically 5.5 meter. It is also a double lane road, which is 5.5-meter carriageway width. And what was also suggested by the experts was that this is a Char Dham route where a lot of pilgrims every year walk to these shrines. And also the residents, they need roads because everybody is using the highway. There are women who go to the forest, who are cutting who are cutting grass, and they are coming back with the fodder, and they're all like really 90 degrees. They have to walk on the highway, so it's unsafe for the children, for the residents. So have a walking footpath. So 5.5-meter carriageway width and 1.5-meter of walking footpath, and that footpath would be constructed in a way, during times of exigency, you can flatten it out and use that footpath also for the movement of infantry or whatever military requirement needed. That was the suggestion that was made. And the current situation is that the matter is sub judice, it is in the court. And it is at this point where the courts have to decide, the apex court has to decide essentially that how much should be the road width be. Last year, the court had given a ruling that 5.5 intermediate width should apply. And it's quite interesting, which I had also mentioned to you before, that the 5.5-meter road width application was an aspect which was even Ministry of Road Transport's own guideline. Their own circular said that 5.5-meter road width is what is suitable for the hills, and more than that, it is not feasible for the hills. So for them, by their own submission also, which is what is needed.
What is the stand of the Environment Ministry on this whole project?
This is very interesting. Environment Ministry has no stand to take. Environment Ministry, this entire project of 889 kilometers never went to Environment Ministry for any clearances. It is compulsory for any road project of more than 100 kilometers to go to Environment Ministry. Very conveniently, Char Dham project of 889 kilometers was broken down into 53 small pieces, each of these pieces being less than 100 kilometer, and therefore it never went to Environment Ministry for any clearance. It completely bypassed the requirement of clearance. And
Circumvented by
totally,
the Ministry of Road
so
Transport.
they found this entire loop in the system very conveniently. The government, Ministry of Road Transport, is the project proponent here. The government itself is behaving so irresponsibly. And it has, I mean, you can even think of a private player doing this, and then there would be repercussions, and you would probably be putting the person accountable, and you would be putting somebody behind bars. And here we are still trying to contest all these aspects. So essentially, the Ministry of Road Transport, which is the project proponent, has conveniently bypassed the very important required environmental clearances. And the Ministry of Environment and Forest only submitted that since it never came to us, we don't have anything to say. forest clearances were there, and some forest clearances were given and some forest clearances were not given, but the work started even in those stretches in total violation.
So what is the way out, the way these environmental aspects are being neglected by every government? They are giving least attention. Uh, do you think a strong movement by the people can have a check on, can compel the government to think on the ecological disasters that are in the making because of these policies?
For sure, I mean, it's very very important that the people everywhere, if our people in this country especially, and everywhere, we have to start holding people accountable. We have to start holding governments accountable. It is our life which is at risk. This is not something which you are saying that you're destructing environment. You are accentuating a climate change event which is taking people's lives. Our lives are at risk. That is number one reason. Secondly, it is intergenerational equity. All of this environment is not just for our consumption, it is also something that we have to pass to the next generation. So this is something which we are taking from the next generation on loan and exhausting it to fulfill our own requirements. This is not allowed. This cannot be. We are taking ourselves towards destruction at a pace which is accelerating by every minute. So what is required by the governments is to think globally and act locally. It's very important that you need to have local sustainable practices of development. For example, in our movement started from Uttarkashi in Uttarakhand when these hydropower projects were being announced in the last flowing stretch of the Ganga. Now, this was the last flowing stretch of the river out of 2,500 kilometers. If those hydropower projects would have been constructed, there would be no Ganga left. So that the government then cancelled those three hydropower projects which were under construction. They were cancelled, and the entire area was declared as an eco-sensitive zone. Now that area, around 80 kilometers or 100 kilometers of the free flowing natural existing national river Ganga, is the only living symbolic system of this is how a river should be. So around that area, the catchment area was declared as an eco-sensitive area, which was to be developed in the aspect so that you conserve the river, you protect and you increase the green cover. It was happened in 2010. Now we are sitting in 2021, and in 11 years, the implementation of notification is still pending. So you see the will of the governments. Climate change is coming. We need to change our developmental policies. We cannot keep thinking hydropowers are temples of this country, etc. It happened like decades back. It's now different. It is no longer like that. We
Definitely.
have to change the way that we look at things. There are 5 hydropower projects which are existing in the state. You show us one village which is developed because of these hydropower projects, and we will show you 10 villages which are completely lost the water sources, which are more vulnerable, which are more fragile because of the construction of hydropower projects. So you tell us, where is the development? There is visibly no development because of this. This is, you are taking away safe, secure, peaceful, sacrosanct areas, and you're converting them into consumer centric tourism hotspots. There is no sanctity left to these places. This is criminal. There is so much of this old mentality which needs to change, which I think is going to change over time, perhaps.
Let us hope better sense prevails.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you so much,
really.
but thank you so much, Malika ji, for coming
Mm,
to this program of
my
Indian
pleasure.
history and giving us a very good perspective, clear perspective about the state of things in your state. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.